Hey tea heads, this is Don from Mayleaf. In this video, 5 common tea brewing mistakes. In this video, I'm going to be running through and demonstrating the most common ways that some of you out there are messing up brewing your tea. This video is going to go under the Basic Tea Educations playlist. If at any point in time you enjoy this video, then make sure you hit it with the thumbs up. The more thumbs in the air, the more tea videos are going to come your way. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, then go click that button. For those of you who are just dipping your toes into the world of true tea, brewing may seem a relatively simple process. You take hot water, pour it over leaf, and make an extraction. For those seasoned gong fu tea heads out there, however, you know that tea brewing is a lifetime of learning and experimentation. And a lot of the information in this video you will know already. But we've always got to remember the people who are joining us on our tea journey, and you may know some that you want to share this video with. Before we begin, I realize that everybody likes their tea differently and everybody will brew slightly differently. But the 5 mistakes that I'm going to talk about today would send a shiver up any self-respecting tea lover's spine. So let's begin. And of course, I'm not going to dwell too much about it, but we are going to begin with the tea bag. I've done videos about tea bags before. I've done a video where I've tasted a tea bag against a loose leaf tea. I've also done a video where I've got my nieces to taste test between loose tea and a tea bag. I'm not going to go too deep into this. Suffice it to say, tea bags are the most common mistake committed by people out there. Quickly run through why I don't like tea bags. First of all, it's powder, which means it's got a large surface area, and that means it extracts very, very quickly and extracts everything from the leaf, including all of those bitter and astringent notes that you want to control in the brewing process. Second reason is it's inevitably going to be lower quality tea. Because it's commodity tea, it has to be produced in large quantities. They're not going to be using the same fine pickings in the perfect terroir as you get with whole or loose leaf tea. Also, it'll be machine picked. You're not going to get the same fine picking as you do with loose leaf tea. So, the tea bag. And I want to quickly demonstrate one of the myths about tea bags, and that is that it brews quicker, that it's more convenient than loose leaf tea. Let me quickly show you. I've got my Mr. Tea Bag Head mug here. This mug was given to me as a joke. As you can imagine, and I've got my Gong Fu Connoisseur Tea Brewer. I'll put links to this product in the description below. So I've got black tea, same amount, 3 grams in here, goes into the mug, and 3 grams goes into the Connoisseur Tea Brewer. So one of the most common misconceptions about loose leaf tea is that it's not as convenient as tea bags. Let's dispel that myth right now. So water goes in to the mug, classic tea bag. Wow, it's been a long time since I've done this. And water goes in to my Connoisseur Tea Brewer. For those of you Gong Fu heads that are saying that I'm not rinsing my tea, we're gonna simplify the process just for this demonstration. So now, normally you would leave the tea bag in for, well, depends on your recommendations, but about 30 seconds or so, something like that. So now I'm in a situation where I am ready to drink my tea. So I'm ready. The tea bag is probably ready at the same time. I now have to deal with this, which I don't know what I'm going to do with, but I'll stick it here. Right? So I hope that has dispelled the myth that tea bags are more convenient than loose leaf. All you need are the right utensils for loose leaf, and you can brew just as conveniently, and it's a much, much better brew. I will taste this. This is Souchong liquor, dark chocolate, a little bit of red fruits in it. I will taste this very quickly. Flat, dusty, not very nice at all, and brewed in exactly the same amount of time. All right, so there you go. That's the first common mistake made by tea drinkers out there. The second one, I'm gonna bring out the Gong Fu Guru. Second one is the amount of leaf. So second common mistake made when tea brewing is using smaller amounts of leaf. So let me quickly demonstrate. Again, I've done videos about Gong Fu brewing versus Western brewing, but it is worth recapping. This is the amount of leaf which is recommended for ball rolled oolongs for Western style brewing. This is the amount of leaf for Gong Fu style brewing. So this is 1 gram of Tie Guan Yin versus 6 grams of Tie Guan Yin. So I'm going to put these two in here. So clearly the amount of leaf is very, very different. And I'm not just saying this because I'm a tea seller and I want to sell tea, but you will get so much more pleasure and joy out of tea if you brew it with a larger amount of leaf and over multiple infusions, but we'll talk about that later. Very, very important. If you brew with a small amount of leaf, then there is no way that you're going to be able to extract the richness of flavor that you will get from larger Gong Fu style brewing. Now you don't have to go full Gong Fu, you can go anywhere in between. That's up to you. But the more leaf you use, the richer the brew. And you cannot substitute that with time. So you can't just reduce the amount and extend the brewing time. And to demonstrate that, I'm going to quickly do this now. I'm going to fill this up here and I'm going to start a stopwatch. And I'm going to start the stopwatch and I'm going to be brewing this for 120 seconds. That's 2 minutes. Now this is 6 times the amount of leaf, so I'm going to reduce the time by a 6, so that's going to be 20 seconds. So when this is nearly finished, I will then fill this one up and it's going to be 20 seconds. And we're going to taste the difference and we're going to look at the difference in color. I've got some glass Gong Dao Beis here. And again, I've done videos about this before, but I just want to quickly run through it. Smaller amount of leaf, you will never ever match the same richness, body, texture and effects of tea compared to when you brew with a larger amount of leaf. And as I said, you can choose at what stage you can go from slightly kind of halfway between Gong Fu and Western, or you can go full Gong Fu style, up to you. But the more leaf you use, the better your tea will be, within reason. We're coming up to 2 minutes now, so I'm going to extract this liquor into the Gong Dao Bei and then immediately put this aside, replace it with this pot here. So this is the Gong Fu one again, and we're going to be brewing this for 20 seconds. Here you go. I don't need to start the stopwatch on this. 20 seconds is relatively fast, so we're going to bring this up here. And we're going to see the difference in color, but more importantly, the difference in taste and texture. Very, very important. So, here we go. This was about 20 seconds. Right, so what we wanted to try to achieve here is a relatively similar extraction. I know brewing is not linear, but you know, it's as best as we can do. So 6 times the amount of leaf, therefore a 1/6 of the time. You can see here the difference in color. Let me see if I can bring that a bit closer to you. Here we go. So this is the one brewed for 6 times as long compared to this one. I can clearly see a difference in the color and the texture. You can see so much more activity going on in this one here. There's a lot more body, it looks thicker. So we're going to move these out of the way, quickly grab ourselves a couple of cups, and we're going to taste. So Western versus Gong Fu brewed. So the differences here is the amount of leaf, and therefore we have obviously changed the brewing time to match that. Here we go. Let's go Western first. Cheers. Tie Guan Yin should be creamy, bursting with floral fragrance. This is flat. It tastes like you get when you are served kind of tea at a cafe or restaurant that don't really know what they're doing. It looks the part, it has a nice aroma, although I'm picking up aroma from this one as well, but it just doesn't have the texture or flavor. Let's go with the Gong Fu style. Completely different, thick texture, rich flavor, persistence of fragrance. When I breathe out through my nose right now, The aroma is intense and continuous. It has more texture, more body. It leaves more of a sensation. I'm getting a slight tang on the sides of my tongue. This is like colored water with a little bit of fragrance. This is like drinking the 15th or 17th infusion of a Tie Guanyin, not the first. And it really is the kind of tea that you get served so often by cafes that want to do the right thing. They want to serve good quality tea, but they're not getting the leaf to water ratio right. As I said, don't have to go full, you don't have to go full gong fu, but increasing the amount of leaf is fundamental to the tea drinking experience. Delicious. So that's your second most common mistake when brewing tea. Let me clear up and we'll move on to the third. The third mistake which is commonly made when brewing tea is symbolized here, and that is leaving the tea leaves in the water. This one really winds me up, especially when you go to a restaurant and you order a nice tea. Chinese restaurants are not exempt in this, and they produce a teapot and there's no way of removing the tea leaves. The tea leaves are just floating around in the water. They might be doing this just so they can get away with using less leaf and extracting it for a very long period of time, which, as we've just seen, doesn't work. But probably it's more that they don't appreciate the fact that tea leaves left in water will stew, and that stewing process again will extract notes that you don't want in the tea. It'll give you these kind of oxidized, dusty, dry taste and texture. So if you go to a cafe or restaurant that's serious about their tea and they serve you tea like this, you may want to have a quick word. And certainly if you're purchasing any teaware, these all-in-one brewers like this, you want to be looking for a removable filter that allows you to take the leaves out, save them for more infusions, and lock the tea liquor in the perfect state for you, the perfect strength and texture. Now, for those of you who are crying out, what about grandpa style brewing? I realize that grandpa style brewing does leave the leaves in the water, but it's a very particular style of brewing. I've done videos about this. I'll put a link in the description below, and it really is reserved for very particular teas that are suited, in my opinion, to grandpa style, which tend to be lighter, more kind of white colored green teas. But that's a whole other discussion. For the vast majority of teas out there, you do not want to be leaving your tea leaves stewing in the water. The fourth most common mistake when brewing tea is choosing the wrong temperature water. Again, I have done videos about this before, and you seasoned gong fu tea heads know this already, but it's worth reiterating. If the amount of leaf affects the richness of the brew, the amount of time that you brew for affects how much of the extraction happens, the temperature affects which compounds are extracted, the balance in the liquor. So to demonstrate that, I've got 99-degree water here, so 210 Fahrenheit. This is a beautiful bud yellow tea, and now I'm going to add a little splash of some cold water to this kettle. We're going to bring it down to 80 degrees. It always amazes me how much water you need to add to boiling water in order to bring it down. So that's 82 degrees. That should prove the point. We're going to add that water here, and we're going to let them steep. So the equalization is a fundamental thing, because young tea leaves and buds, but specifically young tea leaves, are very high in catechins, and catechins will extract very, very quickly in very, very hot water. But as you lower the temperature of the water, they will extract more slowly. And catechins, whilst being very good for you, very healthy, also can be quite bitter. And so you want to extract enough to give your tea a little bit of strength and a bit of bite, but you don't want to extract too much that it becomes unpleasant to drink. So you've got to be very, very careful, especially with green teas, especially with dark colored green teas. Again, I've done a video about this before. I'll put a link in the description below, and I'll also put a link to our brewing guide in the description below so that you can download that, print it off, and you can see all the different temperatures that we recommend as a starting point for the majority of your teas out there. Okay, so I'm gonna remove the filter as we talked about in the last point. Always make sure you can remove the leaves. So we've locked in this brew now. This brew is exactly as we had intended, albeit with water that's probably a bit too hot. I'll let that brew a little bit longer for all those people on the stopwatch who are checking how long it took me to cool down that water. It's probably a little bit longer than that. And we'll see a difference. I can already see a difference in the color and the cloudiness. So when you're brewing with boiling water, it's gonna extract everything very, very quickly. I like to imagine it like a kind of sprint race versus a long distance race. All of the different compounds are gonna reach the finish line at around the same time. Whereas in cooler brewing, and we can even go down to cold brewing or ice brewing, you are basically slowing it down. It becomes like a long distance or medium distance race where the compounds get separated out a little bit more, so you can choose when you want to stop the brew and which elements have crossed the line into the liquor. Let's take a little look at the color difference. I'm going to bring this one here too. So again, I can see that this one here is a little bit lighter, a little bit brighter. They both have good texture in them. Let's see what they're like when we taste them. So 99 degree water versus 82 degree water Celsius. Cheers, everybody. Nice at the start, and then you get hit with this kind of very, very intense bitterness. And one of the things that I always find really disconcerting when people are buying Mayleaf teas, I always have to tell them, please brew it with cooler water if it's a dark green tea, because I hate the idea that they're going to go home, they're going to hit it with like boiling water, and then they're going to not appreciate the flavor. Because even though the aromas are really nice, the initial flavor is nice, there's definitely a quite bracing bitterness that comes right at the end. Let's go with the 82 degree water. Soft, smooth, tiny bit of bitterness, but that bitterness transforms to good sweetness. Very, very different. If you were served these two teas, I guarantee that 99.9% of the population out there would say that this was a much better tea than this one. And the only difference that we made was about 17 degrees in temperature Celsius. So that's your fourth most common tea brewing mistake, brewing at the wrong temperature. The final common mistake made when brewing tea is not taking advantage of multiple infusions. You should really infuse your tea leaves many times. Again, I'll put a guide link in the description below so you can read our guide, giving you our suggestions on maximum number of good infusions you can get out of most tea types. And this is not just about eking out as much value from the tea leaves as possible. It is partly that, but it really is also about firstly judging the quality of the tea, so you can make really good judgments on the quality of the tea by how long it lasts, how many infusions it gives you, but also experiencing and appreciating the flavor difference between the infusions. I like to equate it to how a bottle of wine changes after you open it. It's the same with tea. As the water creeps into those leaves, it'll start to extract slightly different compounds and you'll get different flavor notes. The balance will change. So what I've done here is I've brewed 8 infusions of Empress Oolong or Da Hong Pao, which is a beautiful Wuyi rock oolong from Fujian province. This is infusion 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you can see that the color does lighten, and now we're going to taste our way through and see what we think. So the first infusion, strong, has a nice fruity note to it. Really refreshing, really bright fruity note to it. Second, right, so here the roast is less apparent in this. So the first infusion, the roast, because this is a roast to do long, the roast is more apparent, but here the fruitiness actually comes out a little bit more. So if you were to ask me which is my favorite infusion, they're both delicious. I would say this is a bit more caramel and a little bit more roasted, but this one, the fruits and the freshness really comes to the fore. And a lot of people think the second or third infusion of any tea generally are kind of the prize infusions. Here I'm getting, interesting, more minerality. So the fruit has died down a little bit, getting more minerality, which is nice, giving me a little bit of a dry to juicy sensation on the back of my throat. Again, these two are quite similar, quite mineral rich. Now it's getting lighter, but with the lightness, there's a real delight when you start to get through the later infusions of a tea. Some of the kind of top notes die away. Some of the most prominent kind of the lead roles in the tea die away, become less apparent. The volume has died down, and what you're left with are different notes that weren't allowed to shine with the first few infusions. I'm going to skip to infusion number 8. Infusion number 8 is still going. It's still got minerality, and that says to me that these tea leaves have good strength, that they've been grown in good terroir, good soil. So it's a really nice way to judge the quality and experience how the flavor changes as the balance of the compounds that are extracted changes. This is a really nice thing to do, by the way, when assessing tea. So if we're assessing teas, we'll brew up 8 or maybe more, but usually 8 is enough, infusions in bowls like this so that we can taste our way through. That gives us a sense of how the flavor is evolving and the standard of the terroir in which the tea was grown. So that was your 5th and final commonly made mistake when brewing tea. Let's recap quickly. If you want to avoid all those mistakes, first of all, stay away from those tea bags. Second of all, increase the amount of leaf you use. Just keep edging it up until you find the right balance for you. Third is, please do not leave leaves in the water to stew unless you are intentionally brewing grandpa style. The fourth is making sure that you brew with the right temperature. Again, the guide will be down below so you can check that out, but really focus on those green teas. Make sure that you brew at the right temperature to get the right balance of flavors. And the fifth is make sure, if you're spending your hard-earned cash on good quality leaves, that you do multiple infusions and enjoy the whole experience. That's it, tea heads. If you made it to the end of this video, then make sure you hit it with a thumbs up. Check out our YouTube playlist and let us know if there are any videos that you'd like us to make. If you're ever in London, then come visit us in Camden to say hi and taste our wares. If you have any questions or comments, then please fire them over. Other than that, I'm Don from Mayleaf. Thank you for being a part of the revelation of true tea. Stay away from those tea bags. Keep drinking the good stuff and spread the word, because nobody deserves bad tea. Bye.